Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Kissin, Director of Marketing with Zahn Dental. We're here with Chris Cabot, VP of R&D with Affordable Care. Chris, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, Andrew. Thanks for having me today.
So, Chris, your name is synonymous with 3D printing in the dental lab space. Can you give us an overview of, when you started, where you've been, and really what you and really Affordable are up to now?
Sure. Well, I guess I sort of stumbled into 3D printing by an accident. My father owns a small orthodontic laboratory here outside of Detroit. So in our family, once you become a teenager, you got to get a job. So why not go work at the laboratory, right? So I really had the luxury of being able to create products by hand and then deliver those over to the patient on the other side of the aisle. And I really saw, the love and hatred of building these things by hand, right? So when I started going to university, I really focused a lot on CAD/CAM technology while I was in school. And out of school, wrote a lot of early IP for some of the first generation 3D printed applications in the dental space. So started with surgical guides, and then in my OEM career, when I worked for the manufacturers of the 3D printing equipment, worked a lot on bringing a lot of those first generation materials through the FDA and into market. Creating a market ready 3D printed appliance was really something novel for the industry back at that point, because we were primarily using 3D printing for prototyping and for waxing, really castables. So I really looked at 3D printing as being able to hit the mark when we were able to do direct print applications. Put a job on the 3D printer, pull that part off the 3D printer, and deliver it to the patient directly without having to do anything additional to that part. So that's really what I've put my full focus in my career behind, is creating these direct print applications and bringing those to the marketplace.
So, in your early years when you were a teenager in the lab, did you play around with ceramics and porcelain, or did you skip all the fun stuff and go straight to the dirty side of the business?
I didn't really start playing around with ceramics and porcelain until I'd say about 2010, so right when I graduated college, because I was working on a lot of fixed applications at that point. It was sort of the value prop for 3D printed surgical guides that are prosthetically driven, was to work with ceramics and make sure that we can place implants in the right place for restorative applications. So I would say it wasn't until about 2010 that I get to really play with all of the fun parts of dentistry outside of just orthodontics and acrylics. And I think that that's really where the best need for 3D printing is, in trying to create more affordable full arch prosthetics. Is definitely the mission that I'm trying to bring to the marketplace. I know that's Affordable's mission as well, so I'm really happy to be joining forces with them and trying to help them scale this across the country.
It seems almost like the CAD/CAM, the technology, specifically for a crown and bridge, has evolved so much over the last 10 years between, the scanning and the milling, that, just that process is relatively firing on all cylinders. And the next tipping point in the industry is removables and digitizing premium dentures and, making that experience that much more streamlined for the dental laboratory. Where are you and Affordable today with printing premium dentures?
No, look, I think it's no secret that printing has sort of had a little bit of a black eye, and I think partly responsible for that when 3D printing first came to market with dentures. In 2017, the first ever FDA cleared denture came to market that could be 3D printed. And back then, the coloring on this denture was absolutely horrific. We were able to at least prove concept that you could create a biocompatible application for a denture base on a 3D printer, but getting that to market and making it hit the aesthetic standards that we're looking for, making it that premium denture, so to speak, was really, really lacking with those first generation materials. So, fast forward 5 or 6 years, and we're starting to see advanced polymers that are coming to market that are not only to deliver on, the added benefits of 3D printing, which is really, accuracy and economics. So we're able to produce accurate and economic prosthetics at this point on the 3D printer, but can we make them truly premium? And I think we're finally starting to see resins that are hitting the market that can give us the boosted and fracture toughness that we hope for from 3D printed applications, and finally being able to deliver on the expectation of having something that is a true shade match to the products that we're currently delivering to the marketplace today. So I would say that we're getting to the point where, because the materials are becoming good enough and because the printers are being friendly enough to work in the office environment, that you're going to see, of course, companies like Affordable start looking at placing these pieces of equipment into the office space to best complement the technicians that we already have in the laboratory.
When it comes to premium dentures and printing dentures, it all comes down to the aesthetics of the teeth. for someone that's not technical and a technician, what has your experience been like finding a printable tooth solution that meets those high aesthetic needs?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. And we've been able to start achieving some of these aesthetics with the base 3D printing over the last couple of years. But the tooth is really where we've been lacking the most in terms of having premium options. The one thing I'm looking for the most is what is the stain resistance of the printed tooth? I think we've noticed that printed teeth and milled teeth in general actually are a little bit less stain resistant than what we've seen off of the existing denture teeth that are out there. And a lot of that comes down to absorption rate. So if we look at the absorption rate of a conventional CAD/CAM material for the tooth application, it's around 2%. So for both printed materials and for milled materials, hovering right there around 2%. For the carded tooth, it's actually right around 0.5% of absorption. And really the one thing that I'm liking the most about Trusana specifically is we're at 0.36% roughly, where the absorption rate is on the tooth material specifically. So this is after you let the specimen sit in water for 7 days. We go through and we test its absorption rate. Trusana is showing to be one of the most absorption-friendly materials that is out there, which means it should be less porous. So it should stain less over time. It should be more durable over time, create less microfractures over time. And of course, because it's going to stain less over time, it should be more aesthetic over time as well. So that's really what we're looking for with some of these advanced materials. Can we deliver on the shade expectation from print through cure? And then will it hold its color and characterization in the mouth over a certain period of time? Trusana is one of the first tooth materials that's available on a 3D printer that can deliver on that promise.
So, and I just want to make sure I understand correctly, because you're a technician, you're going fast, the technical side excites you. What I heard is Trusana printed teeth is less absorbent than other 3D printed teeth at the moment, and also right around, if not a little better than carded teeth. Is that recapping what you're
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. And because we're starting to get past the existing generation of materials, both let's say carded teeth and first generation printable materials, that's why Trusana is really a premium tooth offering in a 3D printer, because we can deliver on shade better and it will last longer.
So somebody who's working with Trusana, what's your experience? What's your workflow? What printer are you using, and where are you finding the sweet spot from? Because traditional dentures will still be done, I'm sure, here and there, but where has Affordable found the sweet spot for 3D printing premium dentures with Trusana?
I mean, at Affordable, we do a lot of dentures, and I would say 99% of those dentures up to this point are created the analog way. Just a very small percentage of our dentures are done digitally, because we've been waiting for materials like this that can deliver on the expectation of having a long-lasting, digital prosthetic that's going to be in the mouth that we can feel comfortable to put our brand behind, to put our warranties behind, because we know it's going to last like an existing tooth. So I would say up to this point, we've tested this material on a bunch of different machines. The two machines that I currently am primarily utilizing this material for is the SprintRay line of 3D printers, as well as the Asiga Max line of 3D printers. So both desktop printers, both DLP resin 3D printers. Again, we can print this material relatively quick. I will say it's a little bit slower of a resin compared to some of the other denture tooth materials that are out there, but I don't mind it being slower if we're able to deliver on some of its value props of being a more aesthetic, long-term wearing material. So I would say it's a little bit slow. We primarily print it at 50 micron slices because it helps boost the aesthetics a little bit. But so far, it's been a great material to print with, and we've had no issues in terms of getting it to bond to the base successfully and then last in the mouth, even for implant-supported applications, which is something that's worth noting. This is a material that can be used for implant-supported overdentures. We have to give Myerson credit and the team out in Colorado credit that worked on developing this material. They have a 2-year clinical trial running already with this material being supported in the implant realm. And that's something that I think a lot of the OEMs are lacking in giving us good clinical trial data that we can feel comfortable to put our brand behind. So I do give Myerson team a lot of credit for taking on the onus of creating those clinical trials, because it takes time and they're not cheap either.
It's interesting, right? Because you mentioned it's a little bit slower, but it's more aesthetic. So there's a trade-off there. And quite honestly, right, you are vice president of R&D. So I wonder if anything will ever be fast enough for someone who's in an R&D world whose responsibility is finding it out. But, those are some of those trade-offs in the industry.
Sure.
what's the bottom line to a technician and to the rest of the dental industry? Like, where and when do you think printing premium dentures will be more mainstream? Because you mentioned 99% of the dentures are currently analog. Where do you see that tipping point, or are we there now and it's just now a matter of Trusana being validated for the teeth, for denture bases, and this is that shift? What do you envision?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just having a premium material that we can be comfortable deploying as a tooth solution. It's about having the whole ecosystem that really marries, scan, design, and production all under really neat one roof. I think up to this point, digital dentures, to provide a premium digital denture, you had to break the mold of having everything in one office. I think you really had to rely on carded teeth. We had to rely on milled teeth as sort of high-end options, or very expensive printed teeth as a high-end option. Now, because we have desktop 3D printing solutions like with what SprintRay and Asiga provide, and we've got a material that can at least match on those aesthetic and longevity requirements, it's going to be products like this that allow us to start bringing this, this equipment underneath the roof of the clinic and producing these products chairside. I mean, Affordable built their business on providing same-day denture. And really, up until this point, we haven't been able to deliver a same-day digital denture. It's always been, a multiple-day digital denture. And now, because of the technology, because of the workflows, we're able to offer on that promise. And I think that's going to really help the adoption of this technology.
So, you came up in a small ortho lab, and now you've got the bigger, affordable experience. What do you envision for a small to medium-sized lab in 3D printing in the future? It's not just for the affordables and the large labs out there. Where do you really see a small 3-5 man lab moving in the direction when it comes to 3D printing dentures?
Right. So, I mean, denture specifically, look, I like to start people slow. So if you're new to digital and you're trying to get involved with digital dentures, it's definitely one of the best value prop offerings that we see with 3D printing in the dental space. But start with the try-in. Just get used to being able to produce your try-in in a digital fashion, and get used to the steps, the communication steps of going back and forth with your laboratory, with your designers, with your technicians. Of course, how to communicate digital dentures with your doctors. That's the first most important thing, is understanding really the communication handoffs. When it comes to printing vinyl dentures in your office or in the clinic, I firmly believe that we're going to see more and more printers hit the market that are going to create a more user-friendly experience. I think up to this point, we've seen 3D printing be a bit dirty when you don't get to see, the fun of the lights 3D printing on the machine. The post-processing environment of a 3D printer in the clinic can be very hands-on and be very messy, and that can definitely curb adoption. So I think as we get to these more user-friendly workflows, we're going to see this technology be easier to operate and pilot, even if you don't have a lot of technology skills. So I think up to this point, we've looked at 3D printers as being a little scary because there's a big learning curve to go with operating them. But these companies are all working on ways to curb that learning curve, so that even a technician that may be a neophyte with a computer can work their way through it and overcome that learning curve pretty quickly.
Chris, really appreciate your time. It's exciting to hear what you and what Affordable are up to. Really look forward to seeing you in person and getting together sometime soon.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it.